how and why the heart defines a Christian. We're going to give you an overview of chapter 2 today. Jerry, take us away.
Well, chapter 2 looks at defining love. Love, somebody said, is one of the most confused words in our American culture. We use love for all kinds. I love that steak, all kinds of things. I love that car. I love my wife. I love my dog.
I do love steak. just to be clear.
I love steak too. But we're to love God with all our heart, all our soul, all our mind, all our might, and our neighbor as we love ourselves. And we love ourselves. So we said before, the problem with that great commandment is our great sin. I love me. It's interesting, in Corinthians, Paul says, love controls us. He says, the love of Christ controls us, having concluded this, that one died for all, therefore all died. And he died for all, that they who live should no longer live for themselves, but for him who loved them and gave himself for them. So from henceforth we know no man according to the flesh. Everything's new. We're new creations. And we have a mandate now to share this message of reconciliation. But we love because Christ loved us. And by faith, we realize not only that Christ died for us, but he says, but we died with him. The love of Christ controls us, having concluded not only that he died for us, but that we died with him. And we're raised with him too. Now that's a basic thought, Galatians 2:20. I'm crucified with Christ, nevertheless I live. But that's the heart of linking love and faith. And when we understand that we died with Christ, and we're resurrected with him, our love flows from that faith, and it's a love that lays down its life. Jesus said, you need to love as I have loved you. It's one thing to love your neighbor as you love yourself. Jesus says, I want you to love your neighbor as I loved you. Well, how did he love you? He gave his life for you. No. You don't just have to give your neighbor your steak. You have to share the farm with your neighbor, okay?
Yeah, that's right. I understand
so,
that.
Paul illustrates that. He says, be followers of me as I am of Christ. Second part of that first chapter, or that chapter on love, deals with how that's actually happened in the history of the church. Of all the things that Paul taught, what did he teach everywhere in every church? Do you know what the answer is? I've asked that question to many people. He says, I teach my ways. I sent Timothy to remind you of my ways as I teach everywhere in every church. And in that chapter, in that text, he's talking about be followers of me as I am of Christ. And he's sharing his way of life, which is a life of service, humility, proclaiming the gospel, and pouring his life into others. Later on, we see in the New Testament that Timothy and Epaphroditus are followers, imitators. And we're all to be imitators of Christ. The elders are called imitators in Philippians. Christ is formed in us. Love is an imitation of the life of Christ.
All right. Thank you for that summary of chapter 2. We're going to tackle chapter 3 next, so be sure you join us there. And don't forget, go to Amazon.com, get a copy of this book yourself, and if you need a link, that QR code will take you right there.